Welcome back for part 4 of the div-based website. We finished off with working on Photoshop, but there still are a few more things in Photoshop that we need to complete before we get into working in Dreamweaver. So we're going to go ahead and start the final steps here today within Photoshop. First thing we need to do before we actually start to merge all our layers together, so it's easier to actually slice this document apart, is make a copy of it. So let's go to File, go down to Save As, and then in my Design Documents folder I am going to make this home underscore merged, and I'm just going to put a 2 on the end because I've already made a home merged, and I'm going to click on Save. And then once you click on Save, go ahead and click OK, and you can see the document will update. Now there's one thing I need to go over. Actually, no, we're going to start merging our documents, but before we start merging, I'm going to explain one thing that we want to happen with the website before we're done with the design here. I want, whenever the website is up and running, whenever I hover over the navigation area here, actually let me get to my move tool. Whenever I go over the navigation area here, I want each word to pop to the right a little bit as I hover over it. Because that's what they call over a rollover effect in a website. So what we need to do is create layers that reflect that look. So what I'm going to do is click on all my layers, select them all, and then we want to actually we want to rasterize these layers and then merge them together. So if you select them all, make sure they're spelled correctly over here, because once you rasterize them, there's no changing. And then right click and then click on rasterize type. And now what I'm going to do is right click again and then go down to merge layers. So now all of my text for the navigation bar is on one layer. So let me rename that to nav text. And now whenever I hover over this button, that is the over image. So what I want to do is duplicate the text, and there's a couple different ways to do that. I'm just going to click and drag it down to the new layer button, and it makes a nav text layer. But what I want to do is double click that layer and make it nav text over instead of copy, because whenever we hover over, this is what we want it to look like. Now with this selected, I'm going to use my arrow key on the keyboard to nudge this text over, and it's going to be, I'd go over about 1 letter worth of nudging. And then I am going to turn that off, and then I am actually going to drag that all the way to the top here. And now what I want to do is actually, let me take a look at these layers here. I want to rasterize all of the text here, and what you can see is just make sure all your text is spelled correctly. Now I'm going to select all this text that's grouped here. Your layers may be in a different order of mine, but all I'm doing right now is making sure all of my text is rasterized. Okay, now that all that is done, I'm going to select the my top layer that's not the nav text over layer, and then I'm going to scroll down and hold in shift to select the base layer. Now I'm going to merge all these layers together. So right click and click on merge layers. Now, like I've said before, it's always going to take the top layer name. It merges that down, it stays on top, and makes the merged together layer that name. So what I'm going to do is rename this to home layout. And now this background layer that's here still, we don't need it anymore. We were basically just using it as a template, which we did make it look a little bit different, which is fine, but more or less it was a template. So now we have our design created, so we no longer need the template. So I am going to just go ahead and delete this layer. So I'm just going to drag it down to the trash can. And now we have our design, which is in one layer, and then we have our over buttons. But we don't need our over buttons visible right now. We don't need those visible actually until way later. So we're going to go ahead and start putting our guides in here, and that's going to allow us then to place our slices. Okay, now we need to understand one concept, and let's zoom in real far on our document, far enough so we can see the pixel grid. Now we have to understand, if we put a guide on here, and I'm going to do that, it can go in between two pixels, making more or less a half a pixel or a decimal of a pixel. We don't want that to happen. But first off, actually, I did skip one thing. If you don't have your ruler up, we need to bring that up. So let's zoom back out here. If you go to view and then just check the rulers off here, then you will be able to see them. And we would like to look at them in pixels, so if you hover over the ruler, right click, you'll have some options to change what you're looking at here, and we want to make sure we're on pixels. So let's go ahead and I'm going to zoom out. Actually, let's zoom in here. Again, and I'm just going to review that real quick. If you click and drag out a guide, and you have to click on the ruler, the guide will go anywhere, but we want to make sure it locks to pixels. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag out here, and you may want to practice dragging a guide on and putting the guide back. And if you're having a hard time with this, it may be because you're not on the move tool. You need to make sure you're on the move tool in order to put the guides in and out of here. So before you actually put a guide down, you have to use a selection. And I always use this rectangular marquee tool to do this. Because just watch what I do here. If I click and drag a rectangular marquee out, a rectangular selection, it will go between the pixels exactly. So then we can click and drag down our guides, and you can see the guides snap to our selections like this. So, and you can drag them from the left and to the right. So there's a horizontal guide and a vertical guide. So this is not where I want to put guides though, so I'm going to press Control D, to get rid of the selection, and then I'm going to click back on my move tool to drag my guides off so I don't have any guides anymore. And I'm going to zoom out here, and I'm going to show you where we need to now put our guides. So let's first off just think about this a little bit. We have our label of the company here. We have our nav area here. We have a news area here. We have contact and customer support area here. We have a footer area down here. We have a picture area up here. New arrivals area, and that's going to include this area down here. And we have a check out our summer styles area here. Now, these areas that I'm talking about are going to be the areas that are going to be sectioned off by guides. So I'm going to start at the top here, and we're going to put a horizontal guide right at the bottom of our store graphic. So I'm going to zoom in real far here, and then I'm going to use a rectangular marquee, and I'm going to drag it out and make sure the bottom edge of it is right on the edge here, separating the two colors. Now I'm going to click and drag out a guide and snap it right to that point. And then whenever you're done with that, you can press Control D to deselect. And there's our first guide. You can see it goes the whole way across. Now what I want to do is look along this right hand side here, and this is important. You can see that this nav area sticks out to the right, say about about 3 pixels farther than this top label area. But if I zoom out, it's really not making or breaking our design. But we have to take this into consideration whenever we are slicing our picture apart here. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I want to make sure I'm putting a guide on this farther out one. So this actual picture that we export from Photoshop here is actually going to have a little bit of red in it over here, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and drag out a rectangular marquee. Whoops. You can see here that I didn't get the whole way over. This is where you would want to deselect and then reselect and make sure you're right up to the edge here. And then I'm going to click and drag out to here, and you can see the 3 pixels worth right there. So that's fine. That's fine that it's not completely on the edge here. Because what we're going to be doing, each area is going to get its own div, and you want your divs to be lined up as close as possible. So that's why we actually lined it up to this farther out image here. Okay, so now we're going to start just working our way down the page. So this area and this area is not doing anything function wise, so I'm going to include them together. So I'm going to click there and drag my guide out to right here. And I'm going to zoom in here, and just to make sure that my guides are showing up on either side of the pixels here. So I'm going to zoom out, and then I am just going to continue going down the line here. And now notice that I have about 3 pixels worth of area here for the lines. I'm going to make sure the edge of my selection is right on that bottom line, and then I can do that guide right there, and then press Control D. Let's continue on down here. If you're real zoomed in like I am, if you hold in the space bar, it'll give you the hand tool, and then you can just pan along here. And then I'm just going to pick this area here. That area here. And then we're just going to keep repeating this over and over again. And now once we get down to the bottom one, this gray area is basically just a separator. And then it gets into our latest goods news section. So from this area down to this area is all going to be one slice. So I'm going to make sure I put a guide here, and then I'm going to go all the way down here and put a guide right here. And then I'm going to put a guide right here. And then the last one for the left hand side here is going to be right on the footer here. And that looks good. So that's everything for the left hand side. Alright, now moving on, we have to do the right hand side here. So the only sections we have at the moment are this top area here, and then this bottom section here. Then we have this section here, but this check out our summer styles section, it's going to go down to the footer, and we have already put a guide there, so we're good on that end. So if I look here, pretend like you can't see the other guides right now, because they're not going to have anything to do with this right hand side except for this bottom one like I just mentioned. So what we want to do is separate the picture from this area, and then this area from the bottom area. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to drag out a selection so it borders the picture here. Then this is where our guide is going to go. Then I'm going to press Control D, and now I'm going to zoom out, and then I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to probably go about 4 or 5 pixels worth up from the check out our summer styles. And then this is going to be where we put this guide. I'm going to press Control D. Now these guides run into our nav area, so whenever we're slicing we need to make sure that we are only using the left hand column guides, not the right side here. Now we're going to start putting our slices in. And remember that the slices will snap to the guides and the edges of the document. So you can find the slice tool underneath the crop tool. So click and hold on the crop tool and then go and select the slice tool. And now you'll start to see that Photoshop will already start to predict where it thinks your slices will go. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. So you just got to be careful and make sure you put them where you want to put them. So I'm going to click and drag my first slice out, and it's going to go from the top left corner right down to the corner down here. And make sure you are snapping to the edges of the guides, which that's good there. Now we're going to move to the right. We're going to go to the right here, do this big area, and then we're going to hit all these ones down this way. And then we're going to go back over here and then kind of go back and forth the whole way down the page. So here's our first one. Our second one is going to go from here down to the bottom right corner all the way to the edge of the document and to the right corner of the image. Okay, so from here to here is our second slice. Now the third slice is going to be this area right here, so I'm going to click from here to here, and from here to here, from here to here. And we're just going to keep working our way down the page here with the navigation buttons. And now this is the tricky part here. Make sure whenever you're doing the pet supplies button that you're only going to the bottom of the button. Don't go to the slice that's going through the gardening letters. You don't want to do that. So now whenever it comes to the gardening, make sure you disregard that slice or that guide that's going through it. So we're disregarding this slice. Now what we're going to do is use that slice for the new arrivals area. So I'm going to go from the corner here and drag this out down to the corner of the document here, or the corner of that area there. Now I'm going to just remember from this top part here and disregard the guide that goes through new arrivals if that's where your guide's going through, and go from here down to this point. And I'm going to click from the goods news section now. Now don't stop at this point right here. We want to go all the way down to where the color changes right here. And I'm doing this slow because I know this is probably the first time you have done this, which once you get used to this part can go actually pretty quickly if you want it to. Now I'm going to go ahead over on this side. Now this is going to be check out our summer styles section. I'm going to click and drag that area out. I'm going to go back over here. Now for the contact our customer support area, this is going to be its own slice there. And then this little area here that's in between everything, that's going to be its own slice. Like that. And then this footer area, I am going to make it its own complete slice. Okay, now, so we should have 15 slices. If you don't have 15 slices, more or less, then you probably went wrong somewhere. So I would rewind the video back, get rid of the slices you have, or just undo back and start your slices over again. Now that all of our slices are created, we can now export each slice as its own image, and these are what we are going to use in Dreamweaver in order to create our web page. There is an easy way to do this that exports every single slice through just a few clicks. So I'm going to go ahead through that process right now. So with all of these active, I'm going to go ahead, actually let's click back on our move tool first, and then I'm going to go up to File, and then I want to find Save for Web. Now what this does is opens up this dialog box, and Save for Web will read each one of these slices, like I said, as its own image. So it just depends what type of image file you want to create. Generally you're going to do a JPEG unless your images require some type of transparency or alpha channel in a few of the individual images. Then you would pick a GIF file. So I'm going to keep it a JPEG, and you can see here at JPEG a quality of 100 and the optimize button selected. Down here you can see that it is at 12.14 kilobyte file size, and that's going to be a general file size through all of these image exports, which is a very good file size for web purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save here, and what this does, it opens up a browse window. So we want to browse now to our root folder that I had you save on your Z drive or create on your Z drive. Mine is in my Dreamweaver folder, so I'm going to go ahead to that, and it was the div website 1 folder, and in here you can see the only folder I have right now is the design documents, and that is the Photoshop file that we've been working on. But right now this is going to export images that's going to be the structure of the website. So what I'm going to do is just make sure I can see the first level of your root folder, and then down below here I'm going to just start out and put IMG like this. So what Photoshop will do is create a new folder named images, and then each slice will be saved as its own image inside that folder, and it is going to name each slice image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4, and up until it gets to image 15, because we have 15 slices that we created. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save here, and then it just goes back to our Photoshop screen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to browse to my folder, my root folder here, and let's go to, I'm going to go to my Dreamweaver folder. If you're following along, you will go to your Z drive, and then I'm going to go to my div website 1, and you can see here's the images folder, and now here's my image 01, 02, 03, so and so on, and up to 15. Now we have to do this with inside this folder. So if you haven't got to this images folder yet, go ahead and do that now, because what we're going to do is make a folder with our nav images here. That's image 4 through image 9. And we're going to name this folder nav up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the new folder button here. And then I'm going to name this NAVUP, nav up. Because whenever this web page comes up, these are the images we want to see in the actual or on that page. So I'm going to select all of these images here, and I'm going to move them to the nav up folder. So then you can see here they're all in here, 4 through 9. Okay. So now what I want to do is I'm just going to minimize this folder. Now back in Photoshop here, we want to now export the over nav buttons. So we have to turn this layer on, but what you can see, we can still see the bottom home layout up images, because they're part of the actual base image. So what we need to do is create a screen to cover that. So I'm going to hide the nav text over, and I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm just going to create a selection. If you have all the same color throughout here, mine is this charcoal color, what I'm going to do is make a selection that's as long as your longest word here. So I'm going to go up in this area, make a selection about this big, and then make sure you are on your home layout layer, and I'm going to press Control C, Control V for copy and paste. Now this layer, you can see it is now just a copy of that same color. So what I'm going to do is move it to the left here so it covers up home, and then I'm going to hold in Alt on my keyboard, and you can see it turns my cursor into a double arrow. Then I'm going to click and drag this down so it covers up this one, and you can see it copies the layer here, and I'm going to do that for each one of these areas. Okay. Now let's zoom out here. Now we have all these layers now. We need to merge those together. So I'm going to click on the top one, click on that bottom one, go to merge layers, and I am going to rename this to nav up screen, because simply that's what it's doing. It's just screening out what's underneath it. So we'll leave that on, and now we need to turn on the nav text over, which has our words shifted to the right. So now what we need to do is individually export each one of these slices and save it as its own document. So let's go ahead and start that. I want to click on my rectangular marquee tool. I want to cast a selection from over my number 4 slice. Now this is important. We need to do an edit copy merged, and then go up to File, New, and notice that the width and the height of the new document is the exact same size as our copy merged selection. So whenever I click on OK, I can press Control V, and there's our new button. And what I'm going to do is do a file, save for web, and then I'm going to click on save, and I want to navigate to my images folder. And now we're going to make a new folder inside of that. Whoops, I accidentally hit it twice, so I will just rename this one. It's going to be nav over, and I am going to delete that extra one I made. And then I'm going to go into this one, and then I am just going to name this IMG1. And then save that into there. And now we are going to do this same process, and I'm just going to close this one. No need to save it. We already did save it. And then we can press Control D to deselect. Now I'm going to do the number 5. I'm going to do this one in the same manner as I did the last one, but then for the rest of them I'm going to use the short commands. So let's go to Edit, Copy Merged, and then go to File, New. And remember, like I said, it makes the new document exactly the same size as our selection. And it's important that you make your selection accurately to what your slice was. So go ahead and click OK. And Control V. File. Save for web. Click on Save. I'm going to name this one IMG2. Click on Save, and go ahead and close this. No need to save because we just did. And I'm going to press Control D. Now I'm going to cast a new selection around my 6th slice. And now the short command for copy merged is Control Shift C. And then I'm going to press Control N for copy new and press Enter on the keyboard. Now I'm going to press Control V to paste, and then for save for web it is Control Alt Shift S. I'll say that one more time. For save for web, it is Control Alt Shift S. You have to press it all in that order and at the same time. So now this dialog box is going to come up. I'm going to press Enter, and then I just have to type in here IMG3, save, and then even the short command for close, Control W, and then click on No. Alright, I'm going to press Control D. I'll review that one more time with all the short commands. A selection over that 7th slice. Now, Control Shift C, Control N, Enter, Control V, Control Alt Shift S, Enter, IMG 4, Enter, Control W, No, Control D. Now I'm going to go through these last couple quick. Control Alt, Control Shift C, Control N, Enter, Control V, Control Alt Shift S, Enter, IMG 5, Enter, Control W, no. And after seeing that, you can see you can do it really quick once you get used to this, because if you have a really big nav bar that has a lot of images, you're really going to want to learn that short command method because it's going to save you a lot of time. So I'm going to do this one actually real quick. I'm not going to say anything through it. Matter of seconds. Alright, so that's all of our images that we need to start our design of the website. So the next video will be setting up our root folder in Dreamweaver. And then what we're going to do is use all these images we just exported to start laying out our divs and then importing the images into our divs.